Thank you all for joining. For those of you who are already on, appreciate you hopping on early. We're just going to wait a couple of minutes as people join. Appreciate your patience. Good morning, everyone. Thank you again for joining. We're just going to give it one more minute. So thanks so much. Refresh your water, grab a snack, and we'll get started in just 1 minute. Good morning, everyone. My name is Diana Zarzuelo, and I am Vice President of Community Impact at the Greater Houston Community Foundation. We are so pleased and grateful for you tuning in today. Thanks for making the time. For those of you who may be less familiar with us, our purpose at the Community Foundation is to inspire and create meaningful and positive change with our donors and for our community. To date, our donor community has granted $2.7 billion in charitable giving through the Community Foundation over our 30-year history. We are among the youngest and the largest community foundations across the country, which is a huge, real testament to Houston's generosity. Over the last couple of years, we've been really looking at Houston's 200th birthday, our bicentennial in 2036. And that's in about a decade. It's going to go in a blink of an eye. And we've been asking ourselves and others, what is the kind of Houston we hope for? What is our role as a community foundation in supporting meaningful progress on important issues in Houston? And as we've had hundreds of conversations with our donors, our board, partners in the community, we heard two resounding themes. One, we want Houston to stay a welcoming and vibrant place of opportunity for everyone. If there is any place that can preserve the American dream, it's Houston. And yet we acknowledge the persistent disparities in resources and opportunities across our city. And we acknowledge that many communities and neighborhoods have been left out or left behind. And since those conversations, Houston has made the headlines locally and nationally for ranking first among major cities and metros in poverty, making the work of advancing economic mobility even more urgent and important. And two, the second big theme There is value in the Community Foundation growing its capacity to play a critical role in driving meaningful progress in Houston, leading impactful initiatives, convening to catalyze collective action, and fostering strategic, high-impact philanthropy. There is certainly no single institution or organization, no single leader, no single sector that can drive the kind of progress we hope to see in Houston. It really requires all of us. And that is what our community impact work is about. It's about living into our purpose to inspire and create meaningful and positive change with our donors and for our community. Today, our community impact work is made of 3 pillars, and together they represent the arc we've been on over the last 5 years, moving from data to collaborative action and impact on key issues. Built in partnership with the Kinder Institute, Understanding Houston is a regional indicator initiative that really roots the foundation in our community, incredible data and insights about our region's strengths and our challenges. If you haven't already, please imagine the little please emoji if you want to. Please visit understandinghouston.org for more than 200 indicators across 9 quality of life topics for the 3-county region, coupled with analysis, trends, key insights, and links to other valuable research and resources. And most importantly, we've brought that data to life through briefings to more than 4,000 community leaders to help them better understand community needs and inform their philanthropy, their strategic planning, and potential collaborative actions to address those needs. The foundation also used Understanding Houston to identify key issues for collaborative action and high impact philanthropy. The first in disaster recovery and resilience, and most recently to advance economic mobility. Thanks to catalytic gifts from Enbridge and Phillips 66, we established the Greater Houston Disaster Alliance in 2023, which is a strategic partnership with United Way of Greater Houston, city and county leaders, and more than 100 nonprofit partners, all working together to accelerate disaster recovery and build resilience between disasters year-round. And through our high impact grantmaking initiative, we aim to make high impact philanthropy in Houston easy for our donor community, providing an avenue to source, invest together, and uplift the most promising solutions and approaches addressing really pressing community challenges, beginning with a focus on economic mobility and persistent poverty. This work is only possible because of the incredible support of leading donors here at the Community Foundation. You can see our founder circle here. We are so grateful for their partnership, their vision and advice, and their early financial support to really strengthen the foundation for our community impact efforts, particularly as we look ahead and plan to not just 2036, but 2030 through a 5-year strategic planning process. Last year, in 2024, the Greater Houston Community Foundation completed its first sort of high impact grant making cycle, awarding $500,000 in total to 3 incredible nonprofits. These organizations were selected because they demonstrated clear, credible, and compelling visions and plans for significant impact in Houston. They had a proven track record, coupled with a focus on addressing systemic barriers that really made them stand out. And further, they are all on the precipice of scaling and evolving their work such that the Community Foundation's support could be leveraged and really have an outsized impact. We are so happy to have them with us on the webinar today to provide an update about their work, their progress towards their goals, their overall impact, and the lessons they've learned along the way. So after the presentations, which will be relatively short, about 5 to 7 minutes, we'll have about 15 minutes for Q&A. So we ask you to use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen to enter any questions that might come up along the way. And without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. So first step is Prison Entrepreneurship Program, or PEP. So PEP unites business executives and incarcerated individuals through entrepreneurial passion and servant leadership to transform lives and families. With the Community Foundation's $200,000 investment, PEP has been able to expand its Collider program, which is a dynamic social and economic community center serving Houston's returning citizens. This expansion provides comprehensive reentry support, education, employment pathways, mentorship, business incubation, and access to capital, empowering hundreds of formerly incarcerated individuals and their families to achieve lasting economic independence and break the cycle of poverty. Presenting for PEP is Chris Valco, PEP's CEO, who brings over 15 years of experience in transformative leadership, strategic planning, and operational excellence. Chris, I'll hand it to you.
Thank you very much. And thank you all for joining us today. Give me just a minute while I share my screen. I think we're okay. I think the question that we begin asking at PP is, what if you were known for the rest of your life for the worst mistake you ever made? And for the reality is that for 1 in 3 Americans, that's a very real question. That 1 in 3 Americans have faced incarceration at some point in their life. 54% of them are their parents with children under the age of 18. They have a much higher unemployment rate due to their background, resulting in an 87 billion annual GDP loss. And here in Houston, we see in Texas that there's roughly about 115,000 individuals that are incarcerated every year. About 45,000 are exiting prison. 13,000 of them go to Houston. And PEP, I will say, we serve men and women, but in prisons especially, we work in men prison only. And the recidivism rate in Texas is 21.4%. So if you say that 13,000 are being released to Houston each year, then you're looking at roughly almost 2,800 folks that are going back to prison every year. And that costs taxpayers an average of $66,000, resulting in a negative annual economic impact in Houston of 184 million. So this is where PEP comes with a solution. Since 2004, PEP has been uniting business executives and inmates to teach entrepreneurship, to teach business, but fundamentally also to form a community. Um, I came to PEP 8 months ago, and the previous nonprofit where I was at, we used to aim for about 60% employment. We usually got closer to 30 for those that have been incarcerated, and yet PEP has a 100% employment rate within 90 days, year after year. And my question when I came was simply how? And the answer to that is really found in these 4 bullets. One, entrepreneurship is a powerful vehicle for transformation, whether you are one or not. And just so you know, about 20% of our folks are entrepreneurs. The other 80% go on to be really wonderful employees because of the skills they've learned through entrepreneurship. We unite business executives, and that interaction between the executive and the inmate, which is two socioeconomic classes, very distinct, that are coming and learning together, has created a community. And I think that one of the things that we often have an idea of is that a job is really the goal, but I would tell you that the job is really a means to belonging. Belonging is really the goal if you've been incarcerated, finding a new way to belong. And then lastly, before any of our folks are released, they actually are asked to teach the next class in line alongside the volunteers. So there's a heavy servant leadership development aspect of what we do. And just so you know, in case you're not familiar with PEP, we are founded by 10 driving values that supports the mentors and the communities. We have 3 in-prison elements, and we're developing out a 4th. That's why the remote fundamentals is in black. And then we have a re-entry element, and then the collider, and then Entree Capital is actually a CDFI where we can provide the financial means that somebody may need to implement their business or grow their business. The results are pretty outstanding, and you can see this chart, and you can go to our website and you can get a sense of just how successful PEP has been over its 21-year history. 42% of our graduates own a home within 3 years. We have a far less recidivism rate, and the successes go on and on. When we, through the Greater Houston Community Foundation, we've been able to help grow our Collider program, which is really the program outside for those that are pursuing entrepreneurship and struggling with, reentry into society. And you can see we've actually been able to do really well. We're well on our way of being able to meet our goal of serving all the individuals and households. We've far exceeded the number of volunteers who have engaged with us. Our unemployment rate remains consistent, or our employment rate remains consistent, and so on. You can see that we've done really well. The one thing I would say is that we haven't launched as many businesses as we wanted, really because we've been careful about the businesses we select, making sure that they will live on past a point of conception. But the real significant impact for PEP is how we're growing. And as Diana mentioned at the top of the program, PEP is at this real inflection point where we're looking at substantially growing beyond just the Houston, and we're also in the Dallas area, throughout all of Texas, and by 2030 beginning to franchise out of state. That is the goal. And you can see where these metrics and numbers that we're aspiring to, actually, they're already underway. This week alone, we are in the process of moving prison units from one to the other because of the renovations that'll be going on within TDCJ. When we go back to the unit where we've just left, we will quadruple our footprint in prison, and that will have a substantial increase on how we come out of prison. And so that is true both in the Houston area as well as the Dallas area. And then we're looking at going to the other major metropolitan areas in Texas. We were asked to present a success story. One of the privileges I get to have as CEO is I really get to know all of our volunteers as well as our participants, and often they're one and the same. Steve Gutterud was a participant. He's now a volunteer. 30% of the people that are participants go on to be donors. They give it back for what they received. And Steve is a really wonderful example of a fellow that has been impacted in so many ways by PEP. We've provided him with the financial capital that he needed to be able to grow his business. He has successfully done that. And the mentorship impact that he would talk about in his life, and this is true of all of the mentors. These mentors engage not just for a few hours a year or even just for a year or two, but when you meet them, they've been a part of this community for years upon years, and the relationships that they are maintained far beyond the area of need. And so, Steve is one of these folks, and the mentors that are mentioned, John and Keith, these are folks that remain engaged with Steve and are a part of his life well beyond where he needed them. And now it's really a friendship. And I think that's what makes PEP so special. And that has really been the impact of the organization is, again, it's not just about jobs, but it really is about creating a community where everybody can belong and everybody is worthy of a second chance. So I thank you very much for your time. You're welcome to go to our website and learn more. There's so much more that you can learn. And I'll take any questions that people may have at this time.
Great. Thanks so much, Chris. We're actually going to move to the next presentation and then have the Q&A at the end. Appreciate that so much. Next, we're going to have Grameen America, a national organization that has been in Houston for a decade and is dedicated to helping small business owners in underserved communities grow their businesses to enable financial mobility. Grameen America provides affordable capital, asset building, credit development, financial literacy, small business education, a peer network, really a community of support, and a robust health program, which is a new component of their program. Through the foundation's $100,000 investment, Grameen America further expanded their work in Houston, supporting thousands of entrepreneurs create and expand businesses, boost their business income, and enter the mainstream financial system while accessing quality healthcare. I'm pleased to welcome Jill Monum, Vice President of Development and Marketing. Jill leads Grameen America's philanthropic and marketing strategies, and she's also spent her career engaged in mission-driven work with a focus on women's empowerment in both the corporate and nonprofit sectors. Jill, turn it to you.
Thank you, Diana. And let me just give me a moment to share my screen. Make it big here for you. All right. Um, well, thanks again, and thanks to the Community Foundation for bringing us all together to share a spotlight on the work that our organizations are doing in Houston. And I'm just going to start with a story as well about Ashley, who is an owner of a delivery service business in our program. She dreamed of starting a business, but she lost her corporate job a while back, and this was a major financial setback for her. She was trying to juggle rent, insurance, fuel, all of the day-to-day expenses while trying to stabilize her business. She felt like she was drowning financially. She tried to get a small business loan, but they were requiring a six-figure revenue generation and a near perfect credit score. So she really felt hopeless and really stressed out, like there was no practical solution for small business owners like herself, just trying to get started and generate income. And then she found out about Grameen America while attending a small business resource fair at the Baker Ripley Center. So she used her Grameen loan to cover essential business expenses, like including fuel, vehicle maintenance, and she also invested it in advertising to attract new clients. So now she is not only stabilized and growing her business with this injection of capital, but she is also building her credit profile. So this is just one story of thousands here in Houston, but also really across America of people who they're hardworking, they're motivated, they're contributing to their community. They're often trying to raise children, but they have that limited income. And so that is a barrier to their access to being able to sort of get themselves up and out of poverty. So this is where Grameen America comes in. We see entrepreneurship as a pathway towards financial stability and upward economic mobility. And Deanna gave a little overview of what we did, but we really provide small loans to low-income women entrepreneurs to help them start and expand small businesses. These are women who are otherwise shut out of the financial system. In addition to this, we provide a credit development program, asset building, education and training, and also a health program, which we are rolling out nationally and is coming to Houston right now. So I will tell you more about that in 1 second. But this is really wrapped in our peer support network, which is really the magic and the alchemy of our program. It's the social capital and the group lending model where women support and lead and learn from each other that allows us to reach the most vulnerable communities at scale and distribute large amounts of loans. And these women are repaying at an over 99% repayment rate. So they are proving that they actually are creditworthy and becoming economic engines in their communities. We see stories like Ashley's all the time. We also collect our own data, we analyze it, but the impact of our program has also been externally validated by the first ever randomized control trial of microfinance in the United States, showing that, the members in our program have increased business earnings, higher savings, increased credit scores, reductions in their material hardship, in addition to sort of that softer but important side of things like the social support, life satisfaction, and the confidence to make financial decisions in their household. So how are we doing? What are we doing here in Houston? We have already dispersed over $179 million in loans into over 13,000 women entrepreneurs in the Houston community, largely in Harris County. And we feel very proud of this, but it is really just scratching the surface of the need. We have a plan and a goal to disperse over 400 million over the course of the next 3 years in over 54,000 small businesses. These businesses run the gamut of all over. It's really their entrepreneurial spirit. And we're looking to launch a third branch in 2026. I'll tell you a little bit more about that as well. But let's just focus really quickly too on what we've been able to achieve so far in partnership with the Greater Houston Community Foundation over the course of just this past few years. This past year, excuse me, we are on track to meet our goals as well. We have invested more than 28 million in small businesses here. It's over 5,000 or nearly 5,000 women. We will end over 5,000 by the end of the year. That includes over 1,400 new members, all while providing thousands of hours of financial literacy and helping to create and maintain new businesses. I did just want to say one other thing about what we have achieved this year, and this is we are bringing our Promotores Community Health Initiative to this community here in Houston. We understand that health and financial well-being are inextricably linked. And so we also know there is a need here in Houston with 1 out of 5 in Harris County residents lacking health insurance, 1 out of 4 rating their health as fair or poor. And so this program really brings health education workshops to our weekly center meetings when the women come together and meet every single week. It includes screenings and then importantly, health navigation to the resources that are in the community now, or connections to primary care physicians, dentists, etc. It's a really great program that is really helpful to the women in our program. We know that has a real ripple effect. So I will just end with, we see a need for our services in Houston. We know that 2 out of 3 jobs in America are created by small businesses, and that entrepreneurship can be that pathway out of poverty. And so we're aiming to launch a 3rd branch to expand our current capacity to serve 2,000 more women over the course of the next 2 years, in addition to our current plan. And we're raising right now about $3 million to seed our loan portfolio. So what that means is any donation to Grameen America will then be lent directly into the hands of small business owners in the community. And because we have that over 99% repayment rate, that will be repaid to us, and then we can lend it right back into community. So it becomes this perpetual resource. So just to put a time on this, a donation today will be relent about 13 times in 5 years. So $100,000 is truly catalytic. That will be $1.3 million invested over the course of the next 5 years. So we know that this work is good. We know that, as Diana said at the beginning, this is only done in partnership and in collaboration. And so we hope you may consider joining us as we continue to expand our services and meet this urgent need in Houston. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jill. That was really incredible and great to hear the expansion updates. So really, really exciting. I'm now going to remind you that the Q&A is open and live, and we are answering a few questions in writing, but we'll answer some of the questions and the themes that are coming out at the end of the presentation. So just a reminder to put your questions in there as you hear from our final presenter. So last but not least, Connective. Connective transforms social services into a more connected, empathetic, and accessible system. With the Community Foundation's $200,000 investment, Connective has worked to rapidly expand their Unlock My Benefits pilot, providing a one-stop shop for low-income families in Harris County to access essential public benefits like food assistance, health coverage, and utility bill aid. By partnering with community-based organizations and leveraging technology, Connective is screening thousands and supporting hundreds of households apply for benefits, track progress, stay connected, to follow up and further connect them with the social service ecosystem. So this initiative really empowers families to increase their income through benefit access, it reduces poverty, and lays a foundation for upward mobility for low-income families. We have Elaine Morales, Executive Director for Houston, joining us. She is a public interest designer from Puerto Rico, passionate about empowering local communities to shape the solutions they seek. And joining her is Cindy Tesler, Unlock My Benefits Project Manager, who has more than a decade of experience in nonprofit programs and operation management, including leading programs to increase and maintain homeownership to build assets and wealth for families. So Elaine and Cindy, I'll turn it to you.
Thank you, Diana. I'm looking to share my screen really quick. And I'd be remiss to not thank everyone that is joining this webinar, and also to the Greater Houston Community Foundation team for allowing this platform. I love to see so many Connective friends in the list of attendees, and also Unlock My Benefits supporters like the Deering Family Foundation and the Elkins Foundation. At Connective, we really envision local communities where individuals and families have clear, dignified access to year-round benefits and disaster assistance. Our work has really been driven by community need. We started after Harvey, really bringing this single intake hub and spoke model that started with home repair, and then testing that model across multiple social services over time after climate disasters, after COVID, and then really looking into the families and the individuals we were serving and really learning that in order to allow people to access opportunity, to find that stability for them to better respond to disasters, we had to move upstream. So since 2023, we've continued our crisis and disaster response work, but have started also to work year-round to improve social services in our community. And we really do that by designing and delivering human-centered social service programs, developing cutting-edge shared tech infrastructure for service providers, and working hand in hand with diverse stakeholders to achieve collective action. And we've really been able to achieve big things. We've been able to grow a network of over 55,000 families for which we are communicating regularly through our Connective Text programs. We've served over 200,000 families with our disaster response, COVID, and upstream programs, have developed dozens of partnerships with service providers, and distributed over 500,000 in rental and financial assistance during COVID. But today we're really going to be discussing Unlock My Benefits, which last year during our presentation and pitch, it was Public Benefits Hub. We've rebranded to Unlock My Benefits so that families really see this and they get what we're doing right away. And why we are doing this? When we were in the height of the pandemic, we were working with many families that were at risk of eviction and in the eviction docket. And when we were providing the rental and financial assistance, and then when Winter Storm Uri also happened and we were going through applications, we were using public benefits as proxy for income and learned that many families that were eligible for these programs were not using them. And when we looked at the docket, 46% of those in the docket would have avoided that eviction if they were participating in public benefits. This really moved us to understand the underutilization of benefits in our community, and we're leaving about $1 billion in benefits underutilized in our community. These are thousands of families that are eligible for this assistance that are feeling like they're drowning, juggling between rent, bills, medical expenses, that could really be able to connect to economic mobility opportunities if they felt more stabilized. So we started working on this issue, really thinking about all these different families and the amount of benefits that each of them are leaving at the table. And this is not a Houston specific problem. We are seeing public benefits underutilization across the country. Over 65 billion in government benefits goes unused and unclaimed, and millions of families are not benefiting from these programs. So I'm going to let Cindy to jump and discuss what this solution looks like on the ground.
Yeah, so because of all the work that Connective has done over the years to really figure out how best to connect seekers with the services that they're needing in real time, what they came up with is called the Public Benefits Screener. So it's a quick 2-minute screener that anyone can take. It's currently on our public-facing website, unlockmybenefitstx.org. So it takes about 2 minutes, and we ask basic questions about your household, your income, ages of members in the family, and that 2-minute screener will allow you to have a full report of over 15 benefits that you may or may not be eligible for. So it'll tell you that these are the ones that you're likely eligible for, and these are the ones that you're unlikely eligible for. And so just that alone, that information alone, will help us minimize the gap in knowledge, because families, we know over $1 billion in Harris County alone, and a lot of that is because they don't know what they're eligible for. Once they get that report, they can either go and apply themselves, or they can work over the phone to get with one of our Connective partners to get that application assistance, because that's also the next barrier that families have told us about. Okay, I know I think I'm likely eligible for this, but the application process seems daunting. And so this is why we've put together, a consortium of other nonprofit partners to help walk the clients through that piece. And so as they get their benefits, they're continuously following up with them to recertify and walk them through that process. And so these are the 15 benefits that we're looking for. So these are really like state and federal benefits that families may be eligible for. And so the screener is set up to screen for likely and not likely. And obviously all the data that we're getting, we are continuing to update the screener in real time to meet the changing requirements that we see in these programs and the changing needs of those that are moving through the programs. And so here are our current partners, our Navigator network. And so these people, some of them are already doing this work and some of them are starting to get into this work through this partnership. And so we're really trying to get as much of a cross section of Houston as we can, because we know that as clients are needing that additional assistance to do their applications, it helps so much when they have a community partner that they trust. Okay, I am willing to talk to Harris County Public Health or Wesley Community Center because they're in my community and I can trust them as I'm bringing my income documents, my social security number, as I'm talking about my residency status or whatever it may need. So we are currently looking to expand this network to have more community partners work to be that part of that like hub and spoke model, to be multimodal in the way that we do Unlock My Benefits. And so this is one of our partners. This is a Wesley Community Center partner, but they actually did an outreach event with the Beacon downtown for our homeless families, as they are also eligible for benefits. And so it's a way that we're getting out there and we're able to meet those needs. One of the key parts of Unlock My Benefits and why it's such a central part of Connective is that we have actually built it to flex during disasters. So at the moment that we experience a nationally declared disaster, what we do is those same navigators will now also screen clients for disaster benefits. So this may be disaster SNAP or FEMA, and they're helping them with those applications. So they are dually trained to, throughout the year, engage in public benefits during blue skies, but then move to disasters during that time to assist with that. And then we have seen a huge impact, over $9 million unlocked in benefits, and we've had about $1 million investment. So we've seen that investment come back ninefold in the way that we've been able to support families. And so this is the yearly economic benefit that we've already seen, and it's been about a year that we've been working in Unlock My Benefits. I'm going to pass it over to Elaine.
And here's one of our clients. This was a very difficult client because he didn't have a lot of the documents that he needed, but he was able to unlock SNAP monthly. And, he's just saying, like, I'm just trying to get back on my feet. And because of the network of navigators, he connected to SNAP, but also is now recurring using the other programs that the agency is providing to them. Okay, and looking ahead, next year, we look to expand economic benefit for families, deepen partnerships, sustain the infrastructure. It takes about $1 million yearly to sustain operations of this program. So we've started a Mayor's Gifts campaign, and there's a critical need. We are helping people keep their SNAP and Medicaid benefits as they are experiencing changes in requirements and continuing to connect people to what they're eligible for. This really has become a cornerstone of our strategy moving forward, and we really want to empower service providers and other cross-sector partners to join the effort. So thank you. If you're a funder, want to support, or a partner looking to partner and join our effort, or if you want a demo, contact us.
Great. Thank you so much, Elaine and Cindy. That was fantastic. Appreciate it. So we're now going to turn to the Q&A. Appreciate the questions through the Q&A feature. We have a couple already teed up. So Jill, I'll start with you. There was a question about just your national footprint. You all started in 2008, I believe, and I know that you're in many cities across the country. And there's a question here about what are your long-term goals and aspirations as a national organization? And then I think all selfishly, we really want to know more about how Houston really fits into that aspiration.
Yeah, absolutely. So we just underwent a huge excuse me, planning process in 2023, and we do have bold goals. We started that process. We had dispersed $4 billion in loans in the next 5 years, which we're now 2 years in. So we've reached 6 billion, but we would like that to be 14 billion. We have a plan for that, and over the next 10 years, that's 40 billion dispersed into the hands of low-income entrepreneurs. And what this means for Houston is we are expanding nationally because we see the need. We are seeking, we are looking at sort of high areas for demand, and Texas overall is one of them. We are in Austin, in Dallas, and San Antonio, but Houston is particularly a high need community. And so as we've, already launched 2 branches there, we have a 3rd branch that we're looking to launch just next year because we see the real need there. And so this is a kind of a critical component to our continued expansion nationally, but really specifically here in Houston and in Texas.
Great. Thanks for that. Elaine and Cindy, you touched on this a little bit, but give it a little bit more time in terms of the long-term sustainability model for Unlock My Benefits program. You said about $1 million a year is sort of the core base of the program, just your strategy for funding and resourcing as it continues to evolve and scale.
Yes, so we've had a incremental fundraising campaign for the 3-year pilot. We've already decided that now this is a cornerstone and we want to continue it. So right now we're focused on philanthropy helping us kind of innovate and build this like baseline. There's lots of interest. For example, we're currently fundraising along ProUnitas to integrate with Purple Sense and unlock this tool for HISD Sunrise Centers and think about like all the families that connect with that system. That, for example, is not included in the 1 million. So that's why we kicked off a major gift campaign to allow us to innovate beyond the operational dollars. And then moving forward, we're thinking that these cross-sector partnerships, like one of the biggest pain points people have to connect to these programs is the application support and collecting documents to submit better applications to the state, reduce error rates, and get people into programs. We believe there can be a fee for service for these program administrators to see better applications coming into their programs. We think healthcare can be a long-term funder of this as they increase access to social services for people connecting to healthcare opportunities and when thinking about social determinants of health. And I don't know, software as service, like we are at, in 2026, we are really going to deep dive in what is the long-term business model for the initiative.
Great, thank you. Chris, there's one for you about PEP is a proven reentry model. You touched on that a bit in your presentation. How is that tied to a broader vision around economic mobility and sort of community transformation?
Sure. I mean, I think and most recently, you and I were both at an economic mobility summit, and so the fact that PEP connects people of different social classes, that inspiration alone, it's super important to the folks that are inside prison. They will often say, I've never had another adult encourage me the way that I've been encouraged this way, and by the fact that they are servant leaders before they graduate or before they're going into the community, they already know that they can make a contribution and help other people and make a difference in people's lives. Those type of actions have a direct impact on their ability to be successful when they reenter society. The confidence, I mean, so much of this is about confidence and willing and being able to see yourself differently. And so a lot of what, the volunteer connection is all about is really encouraging people to be the best version of themselves. And they have then the skills and the business skills, and they go through a Shark Tank, style competition inside prison. And that's pretty grueling. I mean, these folks study pretty hard. And so as a result of their studies and the competition, they have a confidence when they get out that they can succeed in whatever they decide to do.
Great, thank you. Jill, there's a question here about the Promotoras program. How will you ensure that it reflects and serves the diverse communities of Houston effectively?
Yeah, so we are a national organization. We have a model that we know works, but we also know that every community we serve is a little different. And so it is important for us to marry this model with the community itself. So when we go into new communities, we hire directly from those communities we serve. We are often met with distrust. Why are you giving me a loan? No one else is doing so. And so it's really important for us to really build those trusted relationships in community. And so we will do that same thing with the Promotoras program. They then get in there and they start talking to other organizations so they can really help women in our program navigate the system and the supports that are already there. I mean, in addition to this expansion, the women, we build these trusted networks. And so we want to make sure we continue to bring them along on this upward economic mobility track. And so this is why we continue to innovate the program and build out the asset building, the credit development, those programs in addition to this health program. So it's really from working very closely with the community and hiring within that community.
Yeah. There was another question I saw about just the third party evaluation and the rigorous results there and how that might vary by location. Do the results vary a lot by location?
They really do not. This is we have this same 99+% repayment rate community by community. So largely this program is carried out very similarly, and the results that we're seeing are very much the same community by community. Some small differences we see are sometimes the types of businesses they start may vary community by community. Also, the average loan size, I know there was sort of another question about that. Our maximum first loan time is $2,500, but our average loan size nationally is about $6,000. Right now in Houston, that's around between 4,000, 4,500, which is partly just us being newer in the community. Women stay with the program and continue to access that loan. So largely our data and results are pretty uniform, but they vary a little bit community to community in terms of what's actually happening on the ground, their businesses and that income.
Great, thanks for that. Chris, with the current job market, what opportunities or challenges are you seeing when you're engaging with second chance employers?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is, are we willing to look past the stigma of incarceration? I was recently speaking with a group of employers, and I commented that I think it's helpful for us to see this population as having their own culture. Oftentimes we approach, a group of people and we see this, we say, well, your background is a liability and are you going to be a problem for my company? But I think if we recognize that, and I will say that 90% of the staff at PEP are formerly incarcerated. I have found the group of people that I work with to be the most dedicated and loyal, and they know they've been given opportunity and they're not going to let that pass them up. And so they bring with them a cultural dynamic that I think is actually a remedy for a lot of the problems we see in workplaces, such as entitlement and otherwise. And so I think if we can recognize the population that has been incarcerated as having their own culture and adding that cultural diversity into our existing corporate cultures, we will make a giant leap forward. But it really comes down to it's a willingness to see past a mistake. And in many cases, I mean, there are some people that have made terrible mistakes. There's some people that, one guy I know, he fell asleep after working a double and killed two people at the wheel, and not a bad person, made a mistake. And I think when we look at our own experiences, we have to say, well, the difference between me and you is you got caught and I didn't. And that's a sobering reality check for us.
There's another question here about sort of job specific certifications and training providers that you all might partner with. What does that look like? And are you looking for additional partnerships?
It's always helpful to have partnerships when it comes to employers and also educational aspects. What's nice is a lot of our guys actually hire each other when they get out. For those that start a business, they'll hire their cellies. and they have a job waiting for them. And so that's one of the kind of secrets to PEP success. But we also have a lot of folks that they are looking to get trained and certified, especially for CDL. That's a pretty popular one, and we have training providers for that. And so, those partnerships are ones that we have in the community, but we're always looking for more. And so I would just encourage people to reach out.
Thanks, Chris. Elaine and Cindy, talk a little bit about the policy changes that are happening. And of course, right now there's a major freeze that might be ending soon, but certainly resulting in delays in food benefits, in particular for SNAP. Just how have you seen that impact families? Tell us a little bit about how you guys are evolving and responding.
It's definitely impacting our families. We connected almost 700 families to SNAP this year, and they're seeing delays in an average of $554 a month, which is significant for these families. So our strategy has been threefold. The first thing we are doing is we started contacting them directly via text, letting them know about the special food distributions. We're doing that weekly, updating where food distributions are happening and where to connect with other resources. The second thing we are doing is we're planning cash assistance for those families. So trying to figure out ways that they don't think it's a scam, someone trying just to give them money because they're experiencing a delay. So we are going to do it through the navigators that they apply. So they are going to go and pick up the cash assistance there. And then we are making tech upgrades to the screener. The guidance right now is to we're first letting people know about the delay, but the other storm that we're experiencing in Texas is that earlier this month, also the work requirements for SNAP are rolling out. So people that are connected also don't know that they are going to have to recertify, and new people enrolling into SNAP will need to meet these requirements. So we are doing tech upgrades to be able to refer people into workforce solutions and other job opportunities. But the biggest lesson learned here is that we need like a collective strategy. And we believe that having this network of navigators that someone can just sit down with them and explore, oh, you're going to experience a benefit cliff. Let me help you connect to job opportunities or other opportunities. Oh, you're now eligible to SNAP because of these changes. Let me connect you to now these other programs that you're now eligible for. It's going to be critical to have this multimodal way of support that helps people navigate depending on how their situation is changing and how the policies are changing. And finally, we're part of a group that Greater Houston Community Foundation, United Way, the Food Bank, and others are trying to develop a collective strategy on how we are going to respond to this together.
Thanks so much, Elaine. Jill, there's a question here about the Beyond the Loan program. Do you facilitate a trusted investor program to connect more established business owners and help them navigate sort of the next step of sort of accessing capital? And as you answered this question, go ahead and answer some of the interest rate and like how the repayment works, because I know that for us, that was sort of a mental leap of like, okay, philanthropy, but then there's an interest rate. And so just talk about that really briefly too.
Yeah, well, first, I would just think about our program as really kind of the first step on the ladder towards financial inclusion. I mean, we are really working with communities that even a lot of other microfinance or community development financial institutions are not reaching, because of this group lending model and this unique underwriting. And so these are really micro businesses, and the maximum first-time loan, again, is $2,500, but it means a lot. And all of our loans are on a 6-month term, and these loans are repaid weekly. And so they are weekly repayments where they come together in groups, and the interest rate on them on an APR is about 18%. But what does that mean on a 6-month loan repaid every single week. To the member, that means $45 on about $1,000 loans. So it really triangulates to around, almost like 4%. It's a very low interest and it's very short tenors. So then they can access a second loan and another loan, and they continue to increase that loan size. And that's why that loan size is much bigger nationally and here in Houston, because they continue to access those loans. And so that is part of that upward mobility. And so what I would say is, women are really staying with our program. They like the wraparound services. That peer networking is really critical for them. I just heard from a woman recently just talking about, what a supportive network this is of women who are their mothers, they're working full time, they're trying to keep their businesses at the center, and they're really encouraging each other. So we are seeing really women stay with our program. And so what we're learning is, and this is part of our go forward strategy, is what other inputs and what other services can we continue to provide them to, to this question, ready them for that next step for them. And this is why we're building out a more robust credit development program, the asset building, in addition to the financial and business education. And that business education can help then ready them for that. A lot of them aren't quite there, but our maximum loan is about $20,000, but you take that out twice a year, and that's about $40,000. So again, what we're seeing is the women are staying with us because of all of these wraparound services and the support. So we are starting to do some input so we can further ready them for if they make it to that sort of next step where they need much larger amounts of capital.
Great. Thanks so much. I'm going to just do a quick sort of closing remark question, just round robin as we near noon. Chris, any final thoughts or words for our listeners today?
Simply just a lot of gratitude. I mean, we're moving into the season of gratitude, and obviously there are a lot of challenges that those who've been incarcerated face. I mean, the food stamp issue is one that, they get out, and that's the first thing that we do is we send them to Health and Human Services so that they can, get emergency food stamps. And so, the need for, if you've been incarcerated, then all of the social issues that you see are all amplified. And so any support that's available is always helpful because the problems are compounded by a stigma of incarceration. And so thank you. And also just a gratitude for you all, Diana, and your team for being able to amplify our voice and mission. It's really been a wonderful partnership. So thank you.
Thanks. Elaine, any final thoughts?
Well, the stats that you started the call with, that we are now #1 in poverty, and that in a city of such opportunity, so many of our neighbors are not actually connecting to that opportunity. I think that it feels like, all of these programs are really necessary to move the needle. And I just wish that all of our networks are able to grow and more people become supporters of these opportunities, because it's really showing up for our neighbors and connecting them with what they deserve.
Thank you. Jill, you want to close us out?
Yeah, I would just, of course, thank you for bringing us all together. And what's the commonality here is that these organizations, we believe in the American dream, and we see that there are barriers to that access, though, and we're all tackling some of these barriers in different ways. And it really does take these different instruments, these organizations that are looking at the different barriers and to sort of unlock those barriers so that everyone has that same opportunity, to build that life that they want for themselves, to create jobs and to have that dignity and confidence that, that they deserve. And so just appreciate being part of this cohort here that is all working together to release these barriers and really unlock opportunity for everyone.
Thank you so much. Before we close, I just want to offer a simple invitation. So at the Greater Houston Community Foundation, we really talk about investing your time, your talent, your treasure, and ties. So the time you give to understand the work on the ground and engage through service, the talents you lend to strengthen an organization, the treasure you share through your philanthropy, and then the ties that you help build in our community through relationships and introductions. So as you enter the season of gratitude and sort of year-end giving, I hope that you'll consider these 3 outstanding organizations. They are delivering real impact, and your support of any kind really helps deepen and accelerate their work and their expansion, which we heard a little bit more about today. So you're welcome to directly contact any of the leaders you heard from today. We'll share their information in our follow-up email, but you can also reach out to us at impact@ghcf.org in case we can be helpful. And then last but not least, save the date, January 29th, 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. We will be hearing from our second year finalists for high impact grant making. And you can follow us on social and subscribe to our newsletter to stay up to date. And again, we'll send up a recap email next week with the recording of the webinar and ways you can support. So thank you all so much for joining us today. We hope you are inspired as much as we are. Have a great holiday season.